dimming the sun is a dangerous gamble and should be banned. This is what scientists are warning us. Well, the sun dimming is happening naturally because of the Tonga volcano eruption that happened on Saturday, still ongoing and maybe going for the next month. And from what geologists are telling us, the southern hemisphere will be cooling by about 0.5 degrees Celsius because of the ash clouds and the sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, planetary scale engineering schemes designed to cool Earth's surface and lessen the impact of global heating are potentially dangerous and should be blocked by governments, more than 60 policy experts and scientists said on Monday. This is by Marlo Hood on Associated Agents for France Press. Even if injecting billions of sulfur particles into the middle atmosphere, the most hotly debated plan for so-called solar radiation modification, SRM, turned back a critical fraction of the sun's rays as intended, and the consequences could outweigh any benefits. This is what they argued in their open letter. They said solar geoengineering deployment cannot be governed globally in a fair, inclusive, and effective manner. This is what they said in their letter. It's supported by a commentary in the journal Wire's Climate Change. And they said, we therefore call for immediate political action from governments, the United Nations, and other actors to prevent the normalization of solar geoengineering as a climate policy option. An increase of 1.1 degrees Celsius above mid-19th century levels has already boosted the intensity, frequency, and duration of deadly heat waves, droughts, and megastorms. The world's nations have committed to capping the rise in Earth's surface temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius above mid-19th century levels, but UN-backed scientists have said that threshold will be breached possibly within a decade. The failure to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that drive global heating has led some policymakers to embrace solar geoengineering, widely dismissed not long ago as a more science fiction than science, in order to buy time for a more durable solution. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. It's long been known that injecting a large quantity of reflective particles into the upper atmosphere could cool the planet, but what's going to happen to life on the planet with all these particles up there? Nature sometimes does the same. Debris from the 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines lowered Earth's average surface temperature for more than a year, but the open letter said that there are several reasons to reject such a course of action. Artificially dimming the sun's radiative force is likely to disrupt monsoon rains in South Asia as well as Africa, and could ravage the rain-fed crops upon which hundreds of millions of people depend for nourishment. Several studies show unintended consequences. Stratospheric sulfate injection weakens the African and Asian summer monsoons and causes drying in the Amazon. This is what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, said in its most recent scientific assessment. Other regions, though, could benefit. A study last year concluded that SRM could sharply curtail the risk of drought in southern Africa. Scientists also worry about so-called termination shock if seeding the atmosphere with sunblock particles were to suddenly stop. If SRM were terminated for any reason, there is high confidence that surface temperatures would increase rapidly, the IPCC said. In addition, the technology would do nothing to stop the continuing buildup of atmospheric CO2, which is literally changing the chemistry of the ocean. Let's remember, the ocean gives us a lot of our oxygen. So the open letter also cautions that raising hopes about a quick fix for climate, quote, can desensitize governments, businesses, and societies to do their utmost to achieve decarbonization or carbon neutrality as soon as possible, end quote. And finally, there's currently no global governance systems to monitor or implement solar geoengineering schemes, which could be set in motion today by a single country or even a billionaire with rockets. The open letter calls for an international non-use agreement, quote unquote, that would block national funding, ban outdoor experiments, and refuse to grant patent rights for SRM technologies. Such an agreement would not prohibit atmospheric or climate research as such, the letter said. Other forms of solar radiation modification include brightening marine clouds by seeding them with salt particles from the ocean and placing giant mirrors in space to reflect away Earth-bound satellite. Less controversial techniques include whitening rooftops and road surfaces and lightening the color of crop leaves through genetic modification. What are we saying? What are we talking about here? Okay, it's one thing to, you can paint your roofs white and the roads white, or off-white if you live in a very strong solar environment like Mediterranean. If you have white on your houses, you're going to blind yourself because of the reflecting sun being so bright. Most houses in Cyprus or Greece are off-white, like an ochre color, so that it doesn't hurt the eyes. But what this thing about lightening the color of the crop leaves? That's ridiculous. But anyway, signatories to the open letter include Frank Bierman, Professor of Global Sustainability Governance at Utrecht University, R.T. Gupta, Professor of Global Environmental Governance in the Wageningen University in the Netherlands, Professor Melissa Leach, Director of the Institute of Development Studies in Essex, England, and Dirk Messner, President of German Environmental Agency. This is by Agency France Presse on Science Alert. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.